This is the Hope Not Note podcast,
where we answer your questions and share inspirational stories to fill your soul with hope.
Our mission is to empower hope to those who have been plagued by note.
I'm Dr. Dylan Caswell.
And I'm Brandy.
And we're here to bring you out of the note and into hope.
Welcome to the Hope Not Note podcast and Happy New Year. That's a little kazoo that Dylan...
Sounds like a buzzer. Game over.
2024 is over. It is now 2025. We are so excited for this new year. I'm sure that there is so many things that are going to come and there's a lot of blessings in store and we're pumped about it. But in this new year, we always love to discuss what our theme was from the previous year, what we got out of it, and then looking forward into this upcoming year. And so that's what this episode is all about. It's reflecting on this past year. If you listened to last week's episode, we highlighted 5 different moments from different podcast episodes that really stuck out to us throughout 2024. This year, we're going to talk about our personal themes that we had in 2024. So that's what this episode is all about. So Dylan, what was your biggest takeaway from your 2024 theme?
I was hoping you were going to say our question today is submitted by Brandy, the podcast host.
Yes, it is. Here I am, Brandy, the podcast host.
So my theme, and why do we do a theme, and why should you do a theme for this upcoming year? Well, the reason we do a theme is because it's the thing that helps you perform to better capabilities that you might be lacking in, and so you kind of take a quick audit of your past years and what was the thing I need to work on in order to improve that. So stealing Brandy's for a second, one of her previous ones was confidence. She felt like she was lacking confidence. And so all year, you look for opportunities to improve your confidence and finding your voice and different ways to just establish that, like, your being of like, I am confident in my decision making, in how I present myself, how I present my ideas. And it doesn't mean I'm arrogant. It just means that I know who I am. And so having that theme allows you to really work on that thing throughout the year. And then you get to the end of the year and you say, yeah, I accomplished that. Next year doesn't mean that you just dump that theme to the side and you never revisit it, but it means that you have accomplished enough that you're ready to move on to the next thing that's going to round you out even further. So that's why we do themes. That's why we recommend themes. How do you know what theme to do? You got to reflect on it. Get out a journal. Where are your strengths? What is it that you want to improve upon? And improve upon that. A few years ago, one for me was focus. I felt like I was doing a lot of different things 100 miles an hour all at the same time. And I was doing a lot, but I was not focused. And I was focused on being busy. Not focused on being focused, and started to limit down. And it allowed me to start realizing that, hey, I need to slow down in some areas, and maybe this opportunity isn't the one that I should be pursuing at this point. Maybe I should go this way and focus on a few things. And so through the year, that really helped me to become a better person, perform better because of my theme of focus.
Yeah, I feel like the theme is almost like an accountability as well. Like, there's obviously going to be so many different ups and downs throughout a year, but if you can stay grounded in whatever theme you choose, I think it can almost be an accountability system for you to stay focused, not in the sense of like your theme focus, but to stay focused on what your goal was when you're in those low moments, and to stay focused on what your goal is when you're in those high moments, because life can be full of distractions, but having a specific theme can help limit those distractions throughout a year.
Yeah. So my theme in 2024 was letting go. And I just think of Frozen, and then we should have had the soundboard theme song ready.
Yeah.
Play
Let
that
it go.
Yeah.
Have Elsa like pop up on the screen.
So letting go, and letting go, right? It's part of forgiveness. It's part of also saying that I have faith, and that I don't have to have all of the answers to move forward in particular domains in my life, that I can be obedient, take a step forward, and know that if I'm working hard and I'm being obedient, that the outcome will be whatever it needs to be. And whether I enjoy the outcome or don't enjoy the outcome, I don't have enough information at that point in time to make that decision. Like, it just, what happens is what is, and then later on we get to decide, hey, that was a great thing. It helped to mold me. It helped to teach me. I got to learn from that. Or, man, yeah, like I wish that went a different way.
Hmm.
But it was also just it's giving up control
Yeah.
of like I'm not in control of this. Yes, I'm the owner and CEO of our company and I help drive the mission, but I am not in control of the outcome of this mission.
Hmm.
I am partly responsible for how we perform, but the outcome of the business, uh, got to put the work in, but
Hmm.
it's ultimately not up to me,
Hmm.
right? There's a lot of factors in place, and the letting go kind of takes off the pressure. It doesn't take away your standard. Like I like to hold myself to a high standard of performance in every domain of my life. And in letting go, it doesn't reduce my standard. It reduces the pressure of what the outcome could or could not be. It
Hmm.
allows me to reach that standard and say, I put in my best effort
Hmm.
and it fell this way or it fell that way.
Yeah, I feel like letting go is not an excuse for complacency,
No.
correct? Like we're
Right.
not being lazy and we're not saying, "Oh, I'm just gonna let go and be lazy and be complacent,"
Yeah.
but instead it's a surrender and a detachment from result.
Yeah.
And obviously you're gonna work hard and you're gonna desire certain results, but whatever those results may be, it's detaching from that and then saying, well, I'm going to continue to work towards the goal that I know that I'm supposed to be
Yeah.
going. And that's more in like a work or like a product based situation, but how was letting go, how did it impact your different like relationships? Or
Mm.
like relationally, how did that surrendering and letting go impact you?
Wow, that's a great question because there's things that I want to share, but I'm not in the moment of my life to share them.
Sure.
But I'll just say that the people the closest to you are the ones you want to help the most.
Hmm.
And oftentimes when that happens, you want to step in and just say like, "Hey, I have a solution for you. Like, let me lead you to this thing." But then you, in letting go, realize that that's not your role.
Hmm.
It's only your role if they ask for that to be your role. And if they're not asking for that to be your role, then it's not your role.
Hmm.
And accepting that has strengthened relationships because I don't have a false expectation
Hmm.
anymore of it, right? And so there's not disappointment, and hope does not disappoint. When are we disappointed? When reality doesn't match expectation. So what do we need to change? Well, what's the expectation in particular relationships?
Hmm.
So letting go of the pressures of what I think my role needs to be in the relationship and instead saying, hey, I'm going to let my role be what that person wants it to be and deciding if that works with me.
Hmm.
And if not, well, okay, I'm not going to put a lot of time and effort into that relationship. If it's a role that it's like, yeah, no, I can do that and yeah, like I'm on board
Hmm.
with that. Well, great, that's where I'm going to put my effort into instead of trying to drive it another way.
Sure.
And in doing that, I've seen, people's health just improve and then take control of the things that I'm like, hey, I really think you should look into this. And them going like, yeah, so I started
Hmm.
doing this or that thing.
Hmm.
Like, wow, by letting go, we've actually made, by
More.
me letting go, we've actually made more progress
Hmm.
than me trying to drive the ship.
Hmm.
So there are situations in which, yeah, like you need to drive the ship, but there's times that you don't when you're asked to.
Hmm.
When you like, don't go up and take the steering wheel from someone. I say that, and right, there's always a line and a level that like yeah at some points you do go take that steering wheel from
Sure.
people but and I hope that's clear
Yeah.
of like hey if someone is like self-harming or like really negative behaviors like you go in and you take that ship and you direct
Hmm.
them but when a person is relatively healthy that's their ship
Hmm.
you are a passenger on that ship they decide when they want you to steer and you decide if that makes sense
Sure.
so I've seen it get relationships get stronger.
Hmm. I am very thankful because as a married couple, but then also like a couple who own this business and are on this mission together, it's cool that I get to see you practicing this theme throughout the year. But then I also have a cool opportunity that in moments where like we're having dialogue about different situations, I was able to be like, all right, well, your theme this year is letting go. So why don't we take that into consideration while we're doing this thing or making this decision. And I think from my perspective, I feel like I was able to aid you in certain situations to
Hmm.
allow you to stay committed to that theme and vice versa.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and I'll say too, right? Like when you pick a theme, man, you definitely get opportunities to practice that theme.
yes.
Like I look back at this past year and the amount of important decisions within the business to make and conversations and think like there was a lot of opportunities,
Hmm.
a lot of anxieties that if I wasn't practicing that theme, I could have held on to and could
Hmm.
have like still been carrying. But in practicing that theme and with your help with the accountability piece, right? Of like, hey, your theme's letting go.
Hmm.
You get to let go of that. You don't have
Yeah.
to hold on to that tension and that grudge and like, right? Like so many times we see like, well, what's one of the last steps in becoming hope? It's forgiveness.
Hmm.
And it is the hardest thing to practice. But we see so often the health ailments that come up from people holding on to grudges and holding on to anxieties and stressors. That's not yours to carry.
Hmm.
Like, so many times, and there's so many different stories we can share of this and different examples that we can share of this, but come on, just do self-reflection. You know what's not yours to carry.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. Like, my mentor used to say to people all the time, they'd ask them a question of, uh, looking into the future, do you think that this will happen?
Mhm.
And he'll start searching his pockets and pull out his wallet and they'll look at him confused and he'll go, well, seems I forgot my God card today,
Yeah.
so I don't think I can answer that. Like there's so many things we don't
Yeah.
have answers to, but there's a lot of things that we do have answers to. And the things that we are certain about is where we move forward in,
Hmm.
and the other things we let go of. There's been difficulties in letting go because it's such
Hmm.
a hard step, but I felt like 2024 I was ready for that challenge.
Hmm.
And it definitely presented those challenges presented themselves. And
Yeah.
I think looking back, I'd say I did a decent job.
Yeah.
I'd say I didn't do a great job, but I did a decent job. I
Yeah.
think it's something I need to continue to grow in.
Well, that's something that we talked about recently that you don't lose the theme from this year because we're entering into a new theme. Like there was a time in 2024 where I was struggling with confidence again and it was like a wake-up call of like, hey, you committed all of
Yeah.
2023 to confidence. Why are you missing it again? In that moment, I had to reground myself
Mhm.
and what I've already learned. And going into this new year, we still have to keep that
Yeah.
surrender and that letting go. It's it's cool you had said like, you know, when you committed to this theme, opportunities present itself for that theme. And it's the common, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but it's like, don't pray for patience
Mhm.
because you're not going to just get patience, you're going to get situations to make you patient.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what these themes,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
especially your theme of letting go, like that really,
Yeah.
that's how it was this past year. And it's cool because I look back on a couple years prior, I had a theme of surrender. And I think that because I had already done that theme, I was able to kind of like assist you through
Hmm.
this theme of surrender, or of letting go. But I also think too, you know, control, when we think of control, there's like I'd want to say like a healthy and unhealthy control,
Hmm.
but control is part of self-agency
Yeah.
in some ways. But then you also have to have the self-agency to realize that you're not in control in
Hmm.
other ways. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So, right, part of hope is self-agency, right? There's
Hmm.
three pillars, self-agency, goals, and then a framework that allows you to achieve
Hmm.
those goals. But you have to have the self-agency. And we did a podcast on victim mindset versus a hope mindset or champion mindset. And you do have to control the controllables, right? And what are the controllables? Well, the controllables are how you respond and how you adapt to situations. Those are the things you can control.
Hmm.
Other than that, you can think that you're in control, and guess what? You're not.
Hmm.
You are not. Everything everything here on this earth, it's borrowed.
Yeah.
Like you may own your house, and that's awesome, especially in this economy. That if you like own your own house and your own land, guess what? You're still paying taxes
Hmm.
on it. And guess what? One time, what's like another control? we're all going to pass.
Mm-hmm.
And when you pass, like it might be someone in your family's able to take over that house, but it's not your house
Yeah.
anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many uncontrollables that can come up, life circumstances. How many times do we work with people that, things were going this way and all of a sudden this illness came up and their whole life changed and flipped upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And when it flipped upside down and they're going through the suffering, they found the controllables.
Mm-hmm.
And the controllables are how you respond and adapt to every situation at hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where self-agency lies. And saying, I'm going to control how I behave. I'm going to control what I become conditioned to. I'm going to control what my input is so that I have a better say of what my output is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You do those things and you let the uncontrollables fall into place.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
Yeah. Thanks. So what was your theme?
My theme for 2024 was abundance.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So what is abundance? What did it look like? And then how did it go?
Mm-hmm. Great question. I think I guess expectation going into 2024 with the theme of abundance was having a better understanding of what abundance is in the sense of you're going to be provided for.
Mm.
Is really what I kind of expected. And having an abundant mindset of, I already have enough. I don't need anything more. And I would say like I did receive that this year. When I take time to reflect on this year, I look at like this was from last September to like this past year September, like that was our first year of marriage,
Mm-hmm.
which was like so cool, right? And then these past few months is just like the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at like the whole year, there were so many different moments where I was like shown abundance. Like I think back to when we got to go to New York City and see Hope Not Nope on a billboard in Times Square. Like that was a moment of really just seeing I am being provided for
Mm-hmm.
and there is abundance in our lives. But as the year went on, there were moments where I almost felt abundance became a promise
Mm-hmm.
versus me seeing it. And so it became a there will like yes, you have enough, but there's going to be more abundance to come. Keep trusting that the abundance is coming. And so it almost transformed from like in different seasons of this past year, I was seeing the abundance. And then in other times of the year, I was just trusting that abundance would come.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was interesting. I'm still reflecting on it, if I'm being honest, because I think it can be both. I think you can see it. So the promise of abundance is interesting because there's a temptation to then think that I don't have abundance currently and I'm just holding on to the abundance that's going to happen. But that's not true. Like there's abundance here and there's abundance coming. Um, so I don't know. There's like the mental like I need to trust the abundance
Mm-hmm.
that's to come and that's here. And then there's also the cool moments where like I got to see it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when I think of abundance, I think of the groundhogs we have that
Yes.
were living underneath the shed and just watching them in the morning. And I think like, what does an abundant mindset look like? It's you wake up and you step out and right they eat grass and there's grass everywhere in all these different parts of the yard. Like knowing that when you wake up that you are cared for, that the resources that you're going to need for that day, whether it's for you or whether it's to bless other people, that will be provided at the time that it's supposed to be provided. Like the groundhog doesn't wake up and go, "Oh no, what am I going to do today?" They step out and they go, "Ah, look at this whole field of grass. Let's go munch away until I get big and fat and can't fit under the shed anymore."
Yeah. There's almost this paradox of like when you think of that, it's so simple. The grass is so simple, but with an abundance perspective and abundance mindset, this simplicity becomes this like grandiose thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I feel similar to you. I feel like I did decent at this theme. I wouldn't say it's my best theme that I've ever had. Maybe I could have put in more work to like receive more abundance. abundance perspective, abundance mindset. But looking at the groundhogs, it's like, where have I taken this simple thing and allowed it to be more grandiose? And I
Hmm.
think I could have done better at that, of like receiving the simplicity and the abundance within the simplicity.
Yeah.
But to the groundhogs, it's not simplicity. It's like the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
It's like bread bowls.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
From a past podcast, we said the greatest thing since sliced bread, and Dylan was like, "What if we said since bread
Said
bowls?"
bread bowls. And I like too, we were one day we were doing sprint workouts outside and there was like a snail or a slug like
Yeah,
in the grass.
so
Like
cool.
imagine the abundance that this slug sees
Hmm.
every time that it steps foot into all this different grass and from its level. So it's like really for us, it's as humans, it's hey, we are a different size than a slug and a
Hmm.
groundhog. We're larger, but we can still make ourselves small and see all the abundance that
Hmm.
surrounds us. And I think it's easier than what we think,
Hmm.
right? Like when we look at the abundance that we live in, like if you're listening to this episode, you you have abundance.
Hmm.
Like you have to in order to receive it. It means you either have a phone, you have a computer, even if it's not yours and you're watching on somebody else's, like
Hmm.
you have like abundance in friendships and community that cares about you, that's delivering this to you. So there is abundance in every moment of every day. We we have to seek it.
Hmm.
We have to look for it because we were talking about this the other day. Like if you're a creator and you created this abundant universe and you're not boasting about it, like how do you get people to see it?
Hmm.
They have to see it. They're not going to talk to you about it. They're going to show it to you. And for
Hmm.
us to be shown, we have to be ready to see it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like you use the example of a car, right? Like, I'm not gonna talk my car up. I'm
Yeah.
gonna show you how awesome my car is.
Hmm.
I think it's really cool that for my theme, I had to go out and find it,
Hmm.
where for your theme, you had to like respond to situations with it,
Yeah.
which is really cool how like how it's different, you
Yeah.
know? But
Yeah.
then complementary at
Hmm.
the same time, because like when you let go, you need to trust that like letting go, abundance is being provided,
Hmm.
right? But in the like searching for abundance, you need to let go of like, I don't know. Imagine if like I thought that seeing abundance would be like seeing 14 rainbows a day. Like
Yeah.
that's not true, right? I mean, seeing a rainbow is like really cool, but then
Right.
also seeing all the other things in our lives, like
Hmm.
I don't know, there's a lot to take in with abundance, but you have to like commit to going to find it.
Hmm. Well, and the paradox with abundance is feeling of overwhelm.
Mm.
And it's like
Mm-hmm.
abundance should make me feel happy. And it does, but it also can make you feel overwhelmed
Yeah.
with when you realize like how much there actually is
Mm-hmm.
out there and how much love there is out there. And when you look for those things, it can become overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting theme because there's this perspective of like it's going to make me joyful inside and excited, and it can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think abundance does do that as well, but it also can be very overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
especially like you start to get a feeling like when you feel abundant, like I'm not worthy,
Mm-hmm.
but like you are enough, but you can also feel not worthy while feeling like you are enough.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this interesting.
Yeah, there's a mental piece to it because I also found that like as I was being shown this abundance, I almost got into this like, well, I already know. Like
Hmm.
I already know that's there. I already know that like this home that we live in is abundance. I already know that this like beauty of nature is abundance. I already like, and so it almost took away from the abundance because I was like almost like restricting it.
Hmm.
Or like there was friction with it of like, well, I already know that that's abundance. So show me the next abundance. But then that takes away from what abundance actually is, which is like kind of rude. But that's why I feel like I did decent because there were times where like there was almost like the friction, but I wonder if that friction was happening because of feeling of like the overwhelmed feeling and
Mm.
feeling like not worthy, but then wanting to like push back into that.
Mm.
Again, still reflecting, so.
Yeah, yeah. So I still have reflection to do on my past theme
Mm-hmm.
for this 2024, which means I have not chosen my theme for the next year,
Mm-hmm.
but wondering if you have.
I have.
Okay.
Yes, my theme for 2025, drum roll, is wonder.
Mm,
I feel like every time I've picked a theme, it's led into the next year's theme unintentionally, but typically in like November or December, something will start coming up, and then I try and I almost try to like resist it because in my head it's too close to the theme before.
right.
But with this, I feel like that wonder is the piece of abundance that I missed.
Mm,
And so it's almost like a stepping block into
wow.
like adding upon
Yeah.
the abundance, which I'm really looking forward to because I know that when I like wonder from again expectations going into it, but for me like my expectations in 2025 and for my specifically for myself is that wonder is not just going to be given to me.
Mm,
Like I need to be more intentional with it, and I was not as intentional as I could have been with abundance.
right.
And so I'm really looking forward to wonder because there's a sense of awe with
Mm,
wonder. And I feel most myself when I have that spirit. And there's been seasons in my life where I've had that and like I just feel so myself. And so I'm excited to like dive into that theme.
yeah, no, it's so cool because I think of wonder, right? And like childlike wonder. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I have that
Mm-hmm.
like every day of my life because
Yeah.
like I love science and I love learning about physics and planets and the universe. And I
Mm-hmm.
always think of this post that's like, it kind of starts with like a zoomed in view of an apartment. And it's like, here you are complaining about your day. And then it zooms out to the
Mm-hmm.
city, and then it zooms out to the state, and then it zooms out to the country, and then it zooms out to the earth, and then it zooms out to the universe, and then it zooms out to all the other
Mm-hmm.
galaxies within the universe. And it's this like little tiny speck that you can barely see anymore. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and here you are complaining about
Your
the
day.
problems that you have. But it's like that wonder makes you realize how much abundance that there is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it's like, we kind of use the progressive example of like a groundhog to a slug.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, as humans, how do we wonder more? And I mentioned like you make yourself smaller. How do you make yourself smaller? Well, you start to recognize how much vastness is out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that like what you do is important and who you are is important. But like we are a small player
Mm-hmm.
in what's happening in all of these different galaxies.
Mm-hmm.
And small does not mean that you're not impactful. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was the Dalai Lama that said, if you think small equals not having impact, try spending the night in a tent with a mosquito.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Pass.
so again, like small does not mean that you're not important, you're not relevant, your work doesn't matter. It means that no, you have great impact. It's just the recognition of humility of how many moving pieces there are
Yeah.
in this world and
Mm-hmm.
past this world and the universe and all the other things that exist that are again like haven't really even been identified yet. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it has been, a lot more of it has not been because of how massive
Mm-hmm.
it is.
Yeah. So you didn't
Sci-fi.
sci-fi. So you don't have your theme yet for 2025, but is there anything else that you want to share about before we dive into hope stories? Or I almost feel like our reflection is a hope story,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah,
you know.
I would agree. More coaching tips than anything else. Like if this is the first year that you're doing a theme,
Mm-hmm.
probably wouldn't start with letting go, but like let yourself be the decider of that. But I just it's a challenging theme,
Yeah.
and I think start with one that is challenging, but you can be successful with. If you start with one like you're this person that has hung on to things your entire life, yeah, at some point you're for health and for performance, you're gonna have to let that stuff go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's probably not the starting point.
Yeah.
You can start with like, hey, I want to be more grateful this
Mm-hmm.
year, whatever it may be, but kind of like fitness,
Mm-hmm.
there's progressive overload to this
Yeah.
thing. And like I took on letting go this past year because I felt like the previous 5 years built me up to be able to take this one on. So again, kind of start with one that you is a challenge, but one that you can be successful with, and share it with your spouse, share
Hmm.
it with a friend, share it with someone that can hold you accountable in
Hmm.
difficult situations, that they can go, man, I'm really struggling with this because of blah, 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 blah. And Brandy goes, hey, let go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're right. Let go. Got it.
I'm a big believer also in like writing it down.
Yeah.
So whether it be consistently journaling, like once a week or once every couple weeks about it, if you want it to be your journal prompt every day, how can I fill in the blank of whatever your theme is
Mhm.
better today? Um, or I'm a big sticky note on the mirror type of person, like just write it down so that you're constantly seeing it.
Hmm.
And again, it's something you want to work on. It's a gap that you're identifying within your life that you're like, okay, this is something that I can commit to. Like there was one year where I typically, so this year and last year I had one word, but years previous I would like combine the words
Mm.
together. So there was one year that it was renewing peaceful rest.
Mm.
And and it was right when we were like first started dating, and I remember at one point I was so stressed because my lifestyle was filled up. Like I was coaching. If I wasn't coaching, I was hanging out with people. I was involved in so many different groups. I did volunteer work on a weekly basis. Like there was so much I was doing. And there was one point where like I physically made myself sick because I was so worked up about going to this one like party.
Mm.
And you were like, "Hey Brandy, remember your theme this year is renewing peaceful rest? Like, are you prioritizing rest in this moment?"
Hmm.
And I realized I wasn't. And it was a reality check of like, I need to be committed to this theme and that's okay. And so I didn't go to the party that night and we like watched a movie or
Mm.
something. And it was this like shift of realizing like there are going to be things that come at your theme, but that's because like if you want to grow, there's going to be friction towards that thing.
Yeah.
It's stressors, right? Like there's going to be stressors. It's the adaptability that helps you grow. So this theme is allowing you to adapt and to grow against like the different friction that you will face in this upcoming year.
Yeah, which is funny because I just realized uh, the year or a couple years prior to us meeting, my theme at that point was basically along the lines of like, I don't want it to sound rude, but it was basically shut up and do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, dude, like you need to put in the reps.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get in there. You got to get your hands dirty. You have to do the work for the goals that you have and what you want to achieve. You just got to get in there right now and put the work in and just do it on a daily basis, which led me to like the 80-hour work weeks.
Yeah.
But in that year, like that was my theme. I was also on a point that I like wasn't in a relationship
Mm-hmm.
and like could just fully commit to the work to get the reps in, which helped me in the following years to gain more knowledge from the connections and mentorships and the reps that I
Mm-hmm.
put in. But then like, there's always the balance to it
Mm-hmm.
of like, yeah, the next year after that was focus.
Mm-hmm.
Like first year was put in all the work. The second year was focus, and which focusing meant like trimming down some of the things that I was doing.
Right. Well, and then another tip for choosing your theme, if you have a spouse, not that you need to choose your theme, you don't need to ask your spouse for like permission to have a theme, but be aware that if you're like setting these new goals, like if say your theme was like shut up and do the work, but we were married and I didn't like almost like consent to that
Yeah.
theme, like that could create friction within your marriage
Mm.
because like you need to be supportive of one another's themes. And so having dialogue like Dylan and I are blessed because like we're having this dialogue right now, and I'm sure we'll continue to have it like after the podcast recording. But make sure that your theme is complementary to the people around you as
Yeah.
well, and it's not going to create like friction within your marriage or
My,
something.
my theme is I'm gonna not do the dishes for a whole year. Like that is not a theme. But
Yeah.
I tell you what, it's a theme, but it's not a productive theme
Yeah.
that's gonna help round you out
Right.
into the
Go
wellness
buy paper
domain.
plates then if you
Yeah, yeah.
want. Well, I don't think we need to necessarily do a hope story because I feel like this was a hope story episode.
Hmm.
So
I completely agree.
awesome.
And we hope that you're contemplating, hey, what should my theme be? And let me take some time in the beginning of the year to really nail one down and just use that as your guardrail for the year.
Yeah.
And it helps you grow in virtue, it helps you grow in discipline of, hey, I established this theme, which is related to my values, which allowed me to now progress because I achieved these things. And hey, when you have the values and you have that theme and your soul is aligned to it and you're doing those things, your body starts to feel great.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what we're after, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
health is wholeness
Mm-hmm.
and feeling fulfilled. And when you get those things aligned and you work towards it, that's where you feel good.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So have a great week, and we hope that you had an amazing 2024 as the Kobe Bryant year,
Yeah.
and now we're heading into 2025. Uh, Thinking of an athlete of 25,
I
we'll
don't.
come back to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I
But
was 25 at one point during one of my seasons,
the Brandy
but
year,
it's not the Brandy year because I prefer 22, but you know.
but you know, but
Have
we,
have a great week and a great year.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
That's nailed it, nailed it. Happy start to 2025. Have a great week, and remember that every day is not just a day to be hopeful, but an opportunity to become hope.
The Hope Not Know podcast is meant for educational, informational, and personal development purposes only and does not constitute any health or medical advice. If you're looking for specific advice, connect with us to work with a Hope coach. The Hope Not Know podcast shall not be liable or responsible for any loss or damage allegedly arising from any information or suggestions in this podcast.